the wife had to go in midnight and collect the cotton from the himolu tree.
Okay, cotton.
A information to Mula Gabhoru, who was at home, তেখেতৰ তাত গৈ পাওঁতে 7 দিন লাগিছে.
Okay.
Pike system start যেতিয়া হৈছে common soldiers আছে আৰু foot soldiers আছে and they are fighting. And তাতে দেখিছে যে মাইকী মানুহ
lady soldiers also.
Yes. And she was holding a bow and arrow. So Bengal পুৱালৈকে নহয় already he is exhausted.
Okay.
Battlegroundত already he was exhausted. এতিয়া ঘূৰি যাবলৈ মানে and he was very old at that time. So যিমান প্ৰিন্স আছিলে আহোমে প্ৰিন্সখিনি যোনখিনি পঠাই দিছিলে সিহঁতক পঠিয়াই দিলে ঘৰলৈ উভতি যাবলৈ. But there was 2 person যোন থাকি গ'ল. That is that little kid Ramoni Gabhoru আৰু টিপম ৰজাৰো জীয়েক এগৰাকী আছিলে তাইও থাকি গ'ল. She also mentioned in the letter কি কাকো আজিলৈকে তোমালোকে পঠোৱা নাই মোক খবৰ সুধিবলৈ কাকো পঠোৱা নাই মই পুৰা খবৰ লৈ ফুৰো.
She could have been just like you said the queen of the Hindustan and তেতিয়া আহোমৰ লগত যিটো মুঘলৰ যিটো relationship আছিলে maybe that could have been taken to a different height. Hello, I am Shaina and welcome back again to BPS podcast. So we have come across how the creation of Borpatra Guhai post has come. So Borpatra Guhai কথাটো পাতি থাকোতে there is something that came to my mind which is Bor Guhai Frasing Mung. So very famous
yes.
Bor Guhai Frasing Mung.
Yes.
So against the battle of this Turbak Khan, right? So there's a famous lady, I think everybody knows, Mula Gabhoru.
Hi.
So tekhetor kotha aru jodi tumi olop bhaldore jodi koa, I think it's very helpful.
Mula Gabhoru in Ahom history is quite famous. Manuhe Mula Gabhoru namto kintu jane. But then Mula Gabhoru ki korisile hetu najane. So when I read about Mula Gabhoru for the first time, I could imagine herself almost to be, similar to the Jhansi ki Rani.
Okay.
Although situation to ekebare similar nohoy, but then some way or the other I could relate. But then yes, right now moi tumak jeta kom, I will not relate in that way. Moi tumak gote, I'll try to highlight her achievement and her contribution in the history of Assam. So Mula Gabhoru was actually a princess, Ahom princess. Her father, he was the Ahom king, Supimfa tekhetor nam. So Mula Gabhoru jetia biya hoise, she was married. Tetia obviously imagine kora je Ahom king ejone nijor jiekok kar logot biya dibo. Already he is the the most powerful one. So aru powerful kono nai hetu levelor etu area. So they used to have marriage ties and relations with the ministers. So Borfukonor family biya dise tekhetok and her husband was Frasing Mung. Now tekhetor story do iman details or nai except the part where she played a very leading role. And I'm coming to that part. Now what happened is that Afghans bure, or you can say the Turkish Afghans jonkini hoy hiyote already etu area Kamrupor area khinit attack korise aru raja asile ditia heri upper Assamor phale Kamrup mane present day Guwahati. Now what happens is that rajae nijor hinghakhon kon eri pele gusi ahibo nware. So what he used to do is that he used to send his ministers as well as the nobles were usually ministers of putek khini hoy bahut ke jon ase. So they used to come. Now community kiba nohoy kiba rituals thake. In Ahom community there is a ritual jot before someone goes to the battlefield তেখেতক এটা গিফট দিয়া হয়. গিফটটো হয় কি এটা এখন কাপোৰ কবচ কাপোৰ বুলি কয়. Just like আমি আজি যুগত মানুহে যেনেকে তাবিজ পিন্ধে or you can wear এইবোৰ আঙঠি পিন্ধে astrology, something to defend yourself. So Kobos Kapoor was also such kind of a amulet that was worn. Now, a Kobos Kapoor too, the wife had to go in midnight and collect the cotton from the himolu tree.
Okay, cotton. Okay.
Himolu gosor kopa use kore midnight ot. Aru morning daybreak hoar agot he kapur khon uliyabo lage. Bonai ready hobo lage.
Okay.
So imagine it's not a small thing to do. Kopahor pora huta bonai Huta bonoar bisot kapurkhon toyar kora iman dangor kotha.
And that too within a night.
Yes, midnight or pura daybreak kiman 3 ঘন্টা. Like jodi summer time hoy aru winter hole thik ase okaman beshi dikholia hoy aru we are in the northeast sun rises earlier
Very
here.
early, okay.
So imagine this time. So what happened is that Turkish Turbak Khan started attacking already. Now Faseng Mung Borgohain had to go to the battlefield.
Okay.
So when he went and told his wife about it, for some reason she was not ready with the Kobos Kapur.
Okay.
According to history, she was probably menstruating at that moment, and so it was an auspicious boost to her, so she couldn't do it. That is one. Secondly, aru eta variation historians bore dise je at a war situation so bostu bahut hop notch hoy, haphazardly hoy. So the decision came and he had to leave. She did not have time for that.
Okay.
Eta rati homoy khini lagibo no, তেখেতক কি ঠিক দুপৰীয়াতে ইনফৰমেশ্যন দিছে বা ৰাতিপুৱা ইনফৰমেশ্যন দিছে, দুপৰীয়া হি হ্যাড টু লিভ, সামথিং লাইক দ্যাট. সো কিবা হ'ল আৰু মানে নহ'ল, কাপোৰখন তৈয়াৰ নহ'ল. That is the superstitious side of the story now. So when he went to the battlefield, তাতে যুদ্ধ যেতিয়া চলি আছে, he died.
Okay.
In the hand of Turbak Khan. So a information to Mula Gabhoru, who was at home, তেখেতৰ তাত গৈ পাওঁতে 7 দিন লাগিছে.
Okay.
গুৱাহাটীৰ পৰা Upper Assam. আৰু when she got to know, she was very devastated. Firstly, she took the guilt upon herself. তাইৰ কাৰণে হৈছে এইটো বস্তু. Because she was not ready with that cloth.
Okay.
Secondly, she felt really bad about the situation that was going on. Husband dhukale, and all the nobles who were fighting, who were leading the army, all of them were dead. That is what she learned. What she did is that she could not stop herself. She went to the king. She took permission to go to the battlefield.
Okay.
And hetu moment the king had nothing to do. I won't say nothing to do. The king hetu moment the king or whoever the military general was at that time, they needed help from any side. So they did not deny. Mula Gabhoru, along with a group of women, they marched towards the battleground sitting on elephants, and they started fighting.
Okay.
And this was a unique experience that the Ahom's soldiers, you can say, কাৰণ pike system আছিল ন তেতিয়া. Pike system start যেতিয়া হৈছে, common soldiers who আছে আৰু foot soldiers who আছে, and they are fighting. And তাতে দেখিছে যে মাইকী মানুহ,
lady soldiers also came.
Yes. And she was holding a bow and arrow. So she probably didn't know sword fighting or something like that. Bow and arrow লৈ হাতী ওপৰ উঠি পেলাই battlegroundত আহিছে, and she was charging the women folk. Okay, they were so much, that vigor was so strong in them, je hihotok dekhi pelai the Mughal army got strength, because hihotok leaders were actually so mori goisile. Now what happened is that in the battleground, it was completely a new experience for her. Battleground the enemy was there. The name of the enemy was Turbak Khan, to me nije goisa. So Turbak Khan is actually very good in a battleground, because he has practiced a lot. Invade koribo ahise jetia, he knows how to fight. Now what happened is that he was charging, and yate Mula Gabhoru fight kori ase. Mula Gabhoru eto bostu notice nokorile je tekhetok defend koribo bahut kejon manu ase.
She was very, I think at that time, she was very much into that emotional situation.
Yes. Guilt ase, khong ase. So she anyhow probably, and she wanted things to be very quick. She wanted to just go and kill him.
Okay.
So without backup, she marched towards him.
Okay.
And she could not reach him.
She died. Okay.
But I just imagine it, okay, when I was reading it in this way, that before she closed her eyes, probably she did see the other Ahom soldiers marching towards Turbak Khan and trying to kill him. So yes, she did. She failed in the
in the quest, but somehow it generated motivation, determination in front of the entire, you know, falling Ahom army. At that time, I to falling buliye kom, because somehow to me, Itia just now when you mentioned about Turbak Khan, he's a Turko Afghan, and Turko Afghans are the class of people or the clan of people who were really, really good in
warfare.
In the warfare.
Yes.
And since they have this, you know, experience of warfare, they have gone through and they have captured the entire the Ganga Valley also, right?
Yes, yes.
So Tahator to me that is why their history, you see, they are very barbaric people. Wherever they go, they'll kill everybody. They'll not save anybody. So heneko eta barbaric eta gute army eta ahi pelai when they are charging, and the Ahom army somewhere they are falling behind, and then they see this lady, and somewhere moi ei bostu to moi just itia moi jeta mane etu kotha moi jeta bhabi asu, in fact Turbak Khaneo sake bahut surprise hoibol, because he has never seen a woman fighter in the battlefield. Nowhere in history, nowhere in the Mongoloid also, nowhere in the Harry also, we never find reference of women fighting there, right? So he's it, Dekhi said that the woman, she came here marching towards him somewhere. He also somewhere got lost in the entire thing, no?
Yes, yes. Suddenly ki ho rito.
And when they prepare for a battle, they always take account of the entire strength of the enemy, right? Je foot soldier kiman hobo pare, you know, the mane archers kiman hobo pare.
Yes, yes. So they probably from one side they already knew ki all the generals were dead. Just amar olop kam ase etia, we are anyway, you know, winning. And hetu moment that they see
a woman marching towards, and tahati to hetu calculation ota nai, because they have never thought about ki women will march in their wildest dream also. They have never thought of this.
Correct.
And some ways jetya he Ahom army is jetya he bhoy to dekhise in the Turbak Khan's face, or in the entire he confusion to some way they got the determination, right?
Yes.
So even mane in fact it is like, since she was not quite trained in the warfare, as far as I know, she was not trained, right? She just had the minimal.
Being a princess, basics to obviously jani boy.
But she didn't have experience of a proper warfare or the real warfare, right? So hebabe maybe she was not able to come out in victory, but somewhere she came to victory by raising the morale of the entire army, right? Yes. So Mula Gabhoru's story actually বহুতে জানে, but এই তুমি যেটো তুমি প্ৰথাটো কথা কলা ন, কি she has to, you know, take out the cloth within 3 to 4 hours.
Yes.
And somewhere she took the guilt in her. So এই গোটে entire এই যেটো psychology of the entire thing, এই বস্তুটো কিন্তু বহুত মানুহে নাজানে. In fact ময়ো নাজানিছিলো. Today I came to know about it, because somewhere when we take reference from history, somewhere we just see ki her husband was killed and then she marched to the battlefield.
Yes, and then she died.
And then she died. So এই মাজৰ যিখিনি events হৈছিলে, the connecting events, the catalyst event, we don't know about it.
Yes.
So এই নীতিটো কথা বা এই নিয়মটো কথা তুমি যেটো কলা ন, যে কটনৰ এটো হে, and it was like, even though it was an impossible task, but এটো বস্তু মানে কৰি উলিয়াবলে হলেও
I am sure উলিয়াই, because এটো probably Ahom royal family এটো এটা প্ৰথা আছিলে. So বাকিখিনি সাগে, since I got to know this information, maybe Buronjit baki kingsor logoto etu bostu
ase. I think in the Rajputs also we see
before they go to war, beleg thake no, kobai tilak ceremony kore ba yeah, johar koribo jon ready thakisile jeneke. So this was a unique protha jontu ane iman details or manuhe na jane aru khingori ghorat utha bade Ahomor sage bahut kome tenuka ritual ase which is quite popular.
So etu to mane dhora, this is around Turko Afghan invasion or kotha jetia pati asu, tar pisotu there were a lot of Mughal invasion as well. Aru Mughal or invasion or homoyat we refer to the treaty of Gilazari Ghat. Aru Gilazari Ghat kotha kole duta character ahe, eta ase Joydos Singho aru egoraki ase Ramoni Gabhoru. So Ramoni Gabhoru mane context, what do you have to say on this?
Treaty of Gilazari Ghat is quite very popular. 1663 that about dangor treaty hoisele no. So the person jar major treaty sign hoisele, Aurangzeb was the ruler at that time. Mughal kingdomor head Aurangzeb অসমত আছে জয়ধ্বজ সিংহ সো Aurangzeb নিজেতো আহা নাই Mir Jumla asile Mir Jumla when the treaty was signed according to the treaty they made this proposal যে ৰজাৰ মানে এজনী
পুত্ৰী
এজনী কন্যা সন্তান she will be given to the Mughal harem so that is one and along with that certain nobles jiman kejon ministers ase he ministers or jiman putek ase সিহঁতকো পঠাই দিব
okay
so now what happened is that হৈ গল মানে war শেষ হৈ গল treaty sign হৈ গল now this little kid Ramoni Gabhoru and she is 6 years old so firstly Joydha Singhar to obviously bahut beya lagibo deutake ejoni jeek ase and they are sending it out not to a neighboring place but to the Mughal kingdom so and taku warot hara karne Mir Jumla while he was leaving from the Ahom kingdom and Bengal hoi pelai jabo no so Bengal pua leke nohoy already he is exhausted
okay
battleground already he was exhausted it has ghuri jaboloy mane and he was very old at that time so jiman prince asile ahome prince khini junkhini pothai disile hiota pothiai dile ghorle ubhoti ja bole but there was two person jun thaki gol that is that little kid Ramoni Gabhoru aru tipom rojaru jieke egoraki asile tayo thaki gol now Ramoni Gabhoru tai probably bhabason ajani 6-year-old kid tai bujiu poane code goi ase ki hol goi ase maybe bahut pack koriu goi ase gute rasta tot and imagine Mir Jumla being already frustrated with that little kid and taking care of a kid is not easy so he met Shaista Khan who was the general of Bengal at that time Shaista Khanok gotai dile that she is the one jak tumi loi jabo lagibo to the emperor of India so Shaista Khan took the advice really very well and what he did is that he took care of this little girl like a father so almost adopted daughter type hoy Shaista Khan then went to the king Aurangzebor agot goi pelai Ramoni Gabhoru gotai dile and Aurangzeb and she was since very young Aurangzeb had nothing to do with her so Aurangzeb Mughal haramot pothai dile taik tate taik education dile just like any other princess in the Mughal haram tate education dile taik warfare hikale she was taught brought books from different kinds of places brought dresses and ornaments and all like a proper princess as time passed she grew up she learned Persian
okay
her name was changed she became Rahmat Banu so tai jitia puberty attain korile now it was time for her to get married and she was married off to Aurangzeb's favorite son
Azam Shah
so Azam Shah her logot junkhon biya hoisile it seems Aurangzeb was so happy with that marriage there was it was kind of a party kind of situation in the whole of Delhi at that time celebration so he even gave a dowry of like 1,80,000 rupees Aurangzeb nije dowry
dise okay.
yes probably dowry likha ase but probably that was the bride price or something like that but then you can see how seriously he took her he probably liked this little kid really very much now coming to history mane ohomor logot jodi connect koru during this time she knew that in Assam there was going on political problems hoy asile and tair junjon mama kasile he was Lalokhula Borfukon
okay
and he was the one june Bengalot junkhini Ahomor Mughalor hea generals ase hiyotor logot pact bonaisile
conspiracy korisile
yes against the king of Assam
okay
now she got to know about this because she is already in the Mughal side she wrote a letter to her uncle mama kole chithi likhile saying ki I am that Ramoni Gabhoru that little kid who had to come live my own kingdom, live my father, live my mother, and I had to come because we lost a war.
Okay.
And it was a war against the Mughals. Now you are siding with the Mughals against Ahom kingdom. Please don't let my,
sacrifice
go in vain. Yes, she mentioned that. She also mentioned in the letter ki kaku ajiloge tumaloge pothwa nai, mur khobor khudibole kaku pothwa nai, moi pura khobor loi furo. I have people jone tade mane ki hoyese ki nai moi khobor pai aso. But then tumaloge kunu aha nai, eku loi aha nai, eku pothai dia nai. Imagine how I was feeling. So hetu, and when I read those lines, I really felt bad. Obviously she must be so lonely.
তাই সবছৰৰ বয়সতে তাইক পঠাই দিছিলে and still she remembers na everything.
She remembers,
and
yes.
she remembers the context also,
yes.
how her
she
own
grew
father
had
to send her off because of a simple treaty that they lost a war, and her father had to sacrifice his own daughter to save the country. তো এতিয়া লালুকুলা বৰফুকনে যেতিয়া কনস্পিৰেচিটো কৰিলে, imagine how she was feeling at that point of time, right?
That's what. So this is very, hey letter kekhon kintu bahut bhal prominently mentioned ase. Now the thing is, in Ahom history, the moment she left, Ahom Burunjit aru tai kotha
tai
koto
reference
mention nai.
Okay.
Tai reference ami khali Mughal history ba mane Persian jiman records ase of that time. And also because at one point of time after the death of Aurangzeb, Rahmat Banu Begum's husband, that is Azam Shah, he sat on the throne for quite less period of time, but he sat on the throne. So hetu karone his wife has been mentioned. Now, but the worst thing about this is that she, Ahom princess, could be called the queen of Hindustan at one point of time because her husband was the king.
Okay.
But she was dead before that.
Okay.
She died at a very early age.
Okay.
And her story tate shekh hoi jay. But then bahut chronicles or motedi, even in her later state of life, she was in Bengal, and Saista Khanor logot relation to describe kore. But that is a debatable context, so I'm not bringing that up. And since we are talking about achievements of women in Assam history, her achievement, I can just say ki she had the administrative skills and caliber enough to even question Lalukula Borphukon, and she was ready to adapt to the changes that she had to face because her father lost a battle.
So she was still a princess. She always lived like a princess, and she became a queen, but somewhere she lost a battle because she was already dead by then. Aru jodi ami bhabi sao, let's say for some reason, let's say that if she would have been alive by then, jitia leke Azam Shah mane emperorship to paise, she could have been, just like you said, the queen of the Hindustan. And tetia Ahomor logot jitu Mughalor jitu relationship asile, maybe that could have been taken to a different height.
Yes.
Because Mughal was somebody who's the epitome of power at that point of time.
Correct.
Even though the Britishers came by then, but still, I mean, the Ahom kingdom would have been like, one of the most prominent thing. Maybe in the Indian history, maybe mainstreamot sake amar kingdom to sake mention korile heten, because since she would have been the one who was
connecting the ties between the two lands.
And since she wrote letters to Lalukula Borphukon, so she somehow knew what was going on in the Ahom kingdom.
Yes.
Mane kune kar lagot ki conspiracy korise, even though at that point of time she didn't have any power, but all she could do is write letters.
Yes. She wrote letters and also mentioned nokori bai to kamako, like whatever.
So somehow she had that mental ability and the administrative skill to understand the consequence of it.
Yes.
Ki jodi kore etu tenehole ki hobo, next ki hobo pare, keneko hobo pare, because she has met other princes in the Mughal harem also, and they have also narrated their own kind of story. Aru jetia agote history jeta likhe, maybe from women's perspective sake iman likha nohoy, he karone sake those stories have been lost. Ami najano kar logot ki hoyese,
because when they were writing, they were not writing history. They were writing just records of daily events.
Ki hoyese ki nai.
যেনেকে আমি মিটিং পাতিলে minutes of a meeting লিখো না, something like that.
It's just an update.
Yeah,
পাতিলো
it's
কি
update.
নাই
Oh.
so inside the things we don't talk about it much, right? আৰু নুৰ জাহানৰ নিচিনাই চাগে হ'ব পাৰিলেহেঁতেন maybe.
Yes, you never know.
She was administratively so skilled মানে and considering that she could remember, she could write letters, she would have been the next Noor Jahan.
Yes,
আৰু sadly
no, to that society change where she adapted to that society. Hetude gom pae what her potential and her caliber was.
So somewhere that history is not mentioned in the Ahom history. Hetu karne duhu lage, beao lage, but since I was not there at that time, but all we can do is now remember her, talk about her, and we must know that how things that are unnoticed should always be talked about.
Yes.
So revisit kora to very important, right?